Imagine you worked hard, saved your money carefully, and put it somewhere safe. You didn't spend it recklessly, you didn't lose it. You did everything right. And yet, one day, you look at the money and realize it can buy significantly less than it could just a few years ago. Nobody stole from you, no one broke into your account. But something quietly, slowly, and consistently took value away from your money without you even noticing. That something has a name. It's called inflation. And today, on Behind the Numbers, we're going to break down exactly what it is, how it works, and why it happens. And most importantly, how it affects your life and what you can do about it. Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Numbers, the channel where we go beyond the headlines to uncover how money, business, and wealth really works. I'm Mel, and let's get into it. So, what exactly is inflation? In the simplest possible terms, inflation is the rate at which the general price of goods and services increases over time. So, in other words, is the reason the same amount of money buys you less today than it did 5 years ago. Think about it this way. Imagine a bag of rice cost you a certain amount 5 years ago. That same bag of rice today costs more. The rice didn't change, the bag didn't change. What changed is the value of the money you're using to buy it. Your money became weaker. That's weakening. That slow, steady lose of purchasing power is inflation working exactly as it always does. And the dangerous thing about it is that it doesn't just happen suddenly. It doesn't announce itself. It creeps in gradually over months and years until one day you look around and you realize everything costs more, but your income has stayed roughly the same. That gap between rising prices and stagnant income is where financial struggle lives for most ordinary people. Now, to really understand inflation, you need to understand why it happens in the first place. Because inflation doesn't just appear from nowhere, it has causes. The first cause is too much money chasing too few goods. Imagine a country where the government prints a lot of new money and then put it into circulation. Suddenly, there is more money in people's hands, but the same amount of goods available to buy. When more money is competing for the same limited supply of products, sellers can charge more because people have more money to spend and prices go up. This is called demand pull inflation. This demand is pulling price upward. The second cause is rising production cost. When it becomes more expensive for businesses to produce things because the cost of raw materials goes up or fuel prices rise or wages increases, businesses pass that extra cost directly to the consumer by raising their products and their prices. You end up paying more not because you have more money, but because it costs more to make the thing you're buying. This is called cost push inflation, and it is the one that actually hits ordinary people the hardest because it happens even when your income hasn't grown at all. The third cause is currency devaluation, when the value of your local currency falls against foreign currencies. Everything your country imports becomes more expensive overnight, and those import costs enters to the like goes to the entire economy, pushing prices across the board. Now, here is where it gets really personal. Inflation doesn't just affect the prices of groceries, it affects every single part of your financial life in ways most people never connect. Think about your savings sitting in a bank account earning little or no interest. If inflation is running by 15% per year, but your savings account is only giving you 4% interest, then you are actually losing 11% of your purchasing power every single year. Your balance might be growing slightly, but the balance can actually buy is shrinking. And this is one of the most important financial concepts that almost nobody talks about. The differences between your nominal value and your real value. Nominal value is the number you see in your account, while real value is what that number can actually buy. Inflation silently, destroys real value, even when nominal value looks stable or looks like it is growing. And it gets worse. Think about people who keep their savings as physical cash, maybe like under a mattress or in a safe or anywhere that earns zero interest. Every single day, that money sit there is losing value. Not because anybody stole it, not because of bad luck, but because inflation is running in the background, quietly eroding its purchasing power around the clock. So, how do government and central bank respond to inflation? This is where it gets interesting because the tool they use to fight inflation often create their own set of problems for ordinary people. The primary weapon central banks use is raising interest rates. When the central bank raises interest rates, borrowing becomes more expensive and people take fewer loans. Businesses invest less and consumer spending slows down. And because less money is chasing goods and services, prices start to stabilize or fall. Inflation comes down. But here is the painful side effect. When borrowing becomes expensive, businesses slows down their growth and sometimes lay off workers. Mortgages become harder to afford. Credits become tighter. The economy slows. So fighting inflation often means creating short-term economic pain. Higher unemployment, slower growth, tighter financial condition in order to bring long-term price stability. This is the impossible balancing act that every government and central bank in the world is constantly trying to manage. And ordinary people feel the consequences of every decision they make, whether they understand it or not. So, what does all this means for you practically? How do you protect yourself from inflation? The first and most important thing is to stop letting your money sit idle. Money sitting in a low interest account or worse as physical cash is money that is actively losing value every day. You need your money working harder than inflation is working against it. This means investing, putting your money into assets that grow faster than the inflation rate. Things like stock, real estate, dollar dominated investments, and other assets that historically outpace inflation over time. The second thing is to understand the differences between needs and wants in an inflationary environment. When prices are rising across the board, every unnecessary purchase is more expensive than it used to be. So being intentionally and strategic about spending is not being cheap, it's being smart. The third thing is to focus on growing your income. Because if inflation is constantly reducing the purchasing power of what you earn, the only real long term solution is to earn more. Whether through career growth, side income, a business, or investment. Growing your income faster than inflation grows price is the ultimate protection. Inflation is not going anywhere. It is a permanent feature of every economy in the world. But the people who understand it and planned around it doesn't just survive it. They use it to their advantage. In our next episode, we are going to talk about something that inflation makes even more urgent. The difference between being rich and building wealth. Because understanding inflation makes it crystal clear why a high salary alone will never be enough and why wealth is built very differently from the way most people think. If today's video made something click for you, please like, subscribe, and share with somebody who needs to hear this. Because remember, the numbers don't lie, but they do hide. I will see you in the next one.